After simple interest that we discussed it before, now we go for compound interest that now you are a little bit familiar with. In the simple interest, when we put $100 in our saving account at 5% interest rate, let's assume annually. So it's the interest we expect to receive at the end of the year, $5. So at the end of the year, we receive our initial investment, original money, plus the interest, that is 105. At this point, with simple interest, if you say that, hey bank, I want to keep this 105 in the bank to get interest for another year. But with simple interest, what happens? They say that we are not gonna pay interest on $105. We are gonna pay interest and $100. So what about this $5? They said that take it. We are not gonna pay interest on that. That's simple interest. So what happens? There is $100 in the bank times again 5%, $5 interest. So at the end of the year, you are gonna receive 110. If you repeat that every year, you are gonna just get $5 extra money in comparison to the initial investment at the beginning of the year, because you are not receiving interest on the whole amount of money that you have in the account. No, the amount that you invested first. So that's the reason many investors decide that they announce another account and they say that please deposit the interest, for example, to that saving account or checking account that I have in bank X. But now the story is different when we are working on compound interest. What happens with compound interest? After you put 100 at the time 0 now. At the end of first year, you have 105. But when they are calculating for you the amount of money you have at the end of year 2, they are paying you interest even on this $5. So what happens? They said that 105 times 5%. So how much interest you receive at this time? You are gonna receive $5 and 25 cents. This 25 cents extra that you get in comparison to this, because you are gonna get 5% also interest on that $5. And this continues. So if I put this here as 100 times 1 plus 0.5. What happens? It says that at the end of the year, you have your original money plus the interest, correct? At the end of year 1, you have this amount of money, correct? 105. Now when we want to see how much money we have at the end of year 2, so you need to do the same thing. When I ask you to make it your second instinct, I meant this way of learning. So what happens? This gives the original amount of money you invested at the beginning of the year, and this one gives you the interest, and this can continue. Now we are gonna check the things together and do practice, and believe me, if you practice enough, you will master it for sure. Now you are more familiar to this slide that you see in front of you because of that some sort of practical way we discussed it together. Compound interest on loan. This loan in the previous page was 100, and compound interest, that was the story I shared with you. But here you see exactly the same thing, but in a more classy way. Compound interest is computed on unpaid interest, as we discussed it. And here, what is P? P is present value, the amount of investment at the beginning of the period. So P here is that 100 that we talked about. I is interest. And here it is telling you what is the total amount of interest earned at the end of the end period. It is calculating this with the same logic that I told you. P is the amount of money at the beginning of the investment. What your total money would be at the end of year 1? So I'm going to put year 1. That means end of year 1. What would be the amount of the total amount of money you have at the end of year 2? Three, and like that. That's the reason you see it in this way. P times 1 plus I, and since you have the total amount of money, that is this. So what is the amount of interest that you get? The total amount of money that you have at the end of the investment period minus P. And again, if you are feeling confused, just stop it and practice, replay it. And we are going to do a lot of practice on these things. And good news I have for you, we are going to do all the things rarely mathematically. We are going to do them based on software. So here you see the amount of interest after 2 years of investment. 100 is the amount of initial investment, and it is the total amount of money you have at the end of year 2, and this is the total amount of interest you receive. So in that way you can calculate the rate of return on your investment and that type of thing. And you shouldn't memorize anything. You should understand all these things. When you understand them, there is no need for memorizing any formula, just common sense. And it is just the beginning, and you are going to master all these things, hopefully by your practice. Now let's make the formulas more organized. Here we have P, present value, the amount of money you invest at the beginning of the period. I, interest. What is F, future value? If I put P dollar in my account. Now, with interest rate of I, how much money I will have totally at the end of one period. This is the formula. You see, F1 equals P times 1 plus I. And remember, don't get intimidated by the appearance, by the but the appearance difficulty. It is just the same story we discussed together. Everything is the same as that 100 times 5% plus that initial 100. So what is the future value of our money after 2 years? P1 plus I. This time we have 2. Why? Because F2, let me not confuse you, just you double check all the things and focus on them. Every formula you master helps you to create more solid logic in your mind regarding the numbers in the finance world. And the same it continues. So when you want to see how much we have, here we have after n period, we have it this formula. And I'm going to show you how we are going to do these things with software, but you need to understand that logic. Okay, now let's do an activity together. Let's do an activity together, and which is true. Stop the video and start working on these things based on everything you have learned. So far you have learned that F equal P1 plus I to the power of n. And now here you don't see any of them. And here just want to show you the connection between the present value and the future value. And now you get a sense of all these financial product that they are offered to you. For example, they said that you pay us now this amount and we will give you this amount later, or we pay you now this amount and you pay us in future. So all these things are the relation between the current value and the future value, and all those things that we are gonna talk about them. So here it is just trying to push you to look at all these things proactively and just come up, okay, if it is the relation between F and P, what is the relation between P and F? And it is trying to do that. So when you want to do that, you just need to have some refresher from your algebra class that, okay, so just we need to take this to this side. So it would be P equal F over 1 plus I to the power of n. So which one is correct? This one is correct. And it is not about mathematics of the work. It is just about noticing there is relation between everything when you play. And you may ask, is it possible that I work on these things and when I have P, when I have F, I calculate the I? Exactly, that's the reason. When you have the F, when you have the P, when you have the number of payments, you can come up, what is the interest rate in this deal? And we are going to work on these things, many examples. And one thing that you should do, you always need to keep caught up, because nothing is difficult here. But when you let things stack over each other, it can make things complicated. Here we have this activity that you are gonna calculate that the total amount and also the interest received in different situation. Make sure the question is clear to you and it's obvious what it is asking you, and feel free to reach out if you have any question in understanding what it means or how to handle the challenge.